I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I would like to announce that Victor Bowman contacted me, and he's in South Dakota, so he asked to be excused. He told me a couple days ago. Would you like to say something? We had a meeting not long ago about changes in operating procedure, I'd say.
Sure. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Let me introduce myself, because I only met you at one code board prior to this. So I'm Bill Williams. I'm the manager of the Walton County Code Enforcement Office here.
Bill?
Bill Williams.
Bill
Yes,
Williams.
ma'am. William Williams. As Tom mentioned, we did have a meeting about a month back about some changes that we would like to make in regards to how the code boards will operate. We looked at how we were doing it in the past, and it seemed to take a lot of time for you folks being volunteers. So what we did was we did a review of how we could shorten the way we testify in front of you, in turn shortening the time that the board takes to hear one case, and still remain within the statutes of what is required for these meetings under the Florida statute. So this is the first, I know I haven't seen you folks, and it's good to have you all here this evening. We haven't been here for a board meeting. So this is going to be the first one that we're actually instituting some new changes. You'll notice we no longer have hard copy books in front of you. If some of you are used to that, I apologize. I think that that is a cost-saving measure as well as a time-saving measure for everyone involved. So we are now going to be presenting our cases through a PowerPoint. Something that I observed in my first code board meeting was that when we had the books, individuals asked a question of our officers, and our officer may have been making a direct answer to that on a particular photo that was entered as an exhibit, and we didn't know if the other board members were all looking at that same photo. So if we're all on the same page here and someone asks a question, everyone can see what everyone else is seeing, as well as audience members that may have an interest in a case here. So we're going to be going with a PowerPoint, which I think will greatly reduce the amount of time that we have these hearings. Tonight is the first night we're trying this, so bear with us. We're going to have a few glitches. We've already had a few getting started here. So my apologies at that, but I will make sure that we get it better for you in the future going forward. That being said, I'm glad to have you guys here, and I'll hand it back over to the chairman.
Okay. And I think we could, unless anybody else has something to say at this point, we'll proceed with case number one.
May I thank them for one thing?
Yes.
I'd like to thank you because by not having paper books, they don't accidentally get out of here. They don't find their way to someplace they're not supposed to. And I hope that in the short future, we'll be able to rectify part of the things that we're supposed to follow about having meetings at least every other month.
Right, and I appreciate that you brought that up. I'd like to address that with you.
Yeah.
The reason we have not had a code board in 3 months is in the code board office here, we have made some significant changes on the way we are dealing with people who are violators in this county. Our officers are actually out on the ground communicating with people. We are no longer just sending out a letter and letting it be at that. We are actually communicating with folks to bring their properties into compliance. I'm going to give you a presentation here in December of some of the changes that we've made, and statistically, like how those changes have affected this code enforcement office since we've taken over here. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We are operating right now at an 800% increase on voluntary compliance from our violators. And that is the reason why we have not had cases to bring forth to you as a board, because we are actually gaining voluntary compliance through the way we are conducting ourselves in the field with violators here in the county. So I'm very pleased that you brought that up. And moving forward,
two new code enforcement board members on the board. Two new members, Mr. Roberts and myself.
Yes, so
we'll take credit for that as well.
I appreciate that, yes, sir. And we're glad that you're on board, and I really look forward to us working with you for the betterment of the county is really what we're all here for, absolutely. So, we'll be proceeding a little bit differently. Bear with us, please. We will get it right, certainly, and we have made some changes, and I think that those changes have been good for not only the citizens in the county, but the folks who are violators and allowing them to have time to come into compliance. Okay, thanks.
Robert's run out of time.
Yeah.
Okay, do I then say that we're going to listen to case number 15-395, Stanley Meyer, for an alleged violation of section 50708A regarding outdoor storage.
What about the minutes?
Oh, yeah, what about the minutes? I just read the minutes because I was missing from the meeting.
I was late. I
Oh.
don't know either.
I never saw anything in front of me. Here they are.
They're at the second
I'm going to
page,
be
so
approved.
that's a good idea.
Give me a minute. Can you give us? just
I'll give you a minute to read
Certainly.
them, yeah. It won't take long.
That's easy.
Yep.
You second.
Wait a minute, though. It says, members absent, Tom Stein excused, and then it says, Chairman Tom Stein opened the meeting at 6:04.
Did you come in late?
You must have left right
I
after
think-
that.
I think you did come in late because Dave Lovell gave the invocation.
Well, Dave was here for sure. If, in all honesty, I don't remember if I was or wasn't. It was June. This is October. I can't tell you.
You were gone.
I thought I was out, though.
He was gone.
I think you were, sir.
Yeah, I was up north,
was,
I know it.
Dave
Yeah,
Lovell that-
So what happened is.
It was Dave Lovell.
Dave Lovell who opened the meeting.
Yeah.
yeah.
Do we need a motion to amend?
Yes.
It wouldn't hurt. Yeah. I, as the chairman, I won't make it.
I move that we amend the meeting, the minutes to read that Vice Chairman Dave Lovell opened the meeting at 6:04.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and then I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as edited.
Make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That takes care of the minutes. All right, now I think we really are ready for case number 15-395. So you show us the new form and we'll follow along.
Thank you. I would like to point out, board members, that on your agenda, there was a typographical error under this case in concerning the parcel number. The last four digits on the agenda read 0238. That is incorrect. It should read 023B. B as in boy.
Was that properly put on the documents that you sent forward?
Yes, ma'am, it was. It was just a typographical error when we made up the agenda.
Go ahead.
All of our officers will begin testimony by saying, for the record, they are submitting a final report, which is what we will all have in our hands that we're going to testify to. Everything that we testify to has been put in the record already, which should save some time on the readings of parcel numbers, addresses, and such. So I have submitted this final report for the record as evidence. On April 21st, 2016...
Let me just
Yes, sir.
interrupt for a second. Do they need to be sworn in?
They do, but there's also because of the typographical error, I'm not sure we've had appropriate notice to Stanley Meyer because in the letter that you sent to him, or was he served with appropriate notice?
He was served with
Okay.
a letter, and the property was posted as well as posting in front of the annex building
Okay.
here. They all had the correct parcel number on them.
That's what I need.
This
to
was only an error in the typing of the agenda.
Very good. And yes, he does need to be sworn in.
Okay, then, and is anyone else going to testify this evening?
Yes,
Would
Officer
you
Riker.
stand then and be sworn in as well? Ma'am, would you swear them in?
Yes. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, now you can proceed.
Thank you. For the record, I've submitted this final report. Back on April 21st, 2016, this case was presented before you, the Walton County Code Enforcement Board, and it was determined at that time by the members of the board that the parcel was in violation of Ordinance 97-28, Walton County Land Development Code, Section 5.07.08, regarding outdoor storage. The ruling of the Code Board was as follows. The picture that you see on the screen is a picture from Hope Road showing there was a inoperable vehicle and some junk and debris on the property, as well as a dilapidated trailer. And since it's been a while since we've had a Code Board meeting, I put these photos in there as a refresher to what the case was. You as the board ruled an order, and the order was such that the respondent is to correct the aforesaid violation on or before May 23rd, 2016. The respondent is further ordered to contact the Walton County Code Enforcement Department to arrange for a reinspection of subject property to verify compliance with this order. In the event that the county staff finds that the aforesaid mentioned property is not brought into compliance after May 23rd, 2016, the respondent shall be ordered to pay a fine. The fine amount will be determined at a separate hearing held by the Code Board after the compliance date. This indeed is that second hearing. At that time, also the board assessed an administrative fee of $450 against the respondent that should be paid on or before May 23rd, 2016. Following that Code Board order, on May 11th, 2016, our office was contacted by the respondent via telephone. A discussion took place on what was necessary to bring the property into compliance. On June 16th, a reinspection was conducted of the property, and it revealed that the non-operating vehicle had been covered with a tarp, which is considered shielding and would bring it into compliance under the current code. There was some progress made with the dilapidated trailer with some items removed from inside that trailer. However, that was all that was done by the respondent. On July 26th, a reinspection revealed that there was no further progress of any sort on that property. Attempts to recontact the respondent, both by mail and telephone, yielded negative results. Several consequent re-inspections of the property later and attempts to contact the respondent yielded no results, no progress, and no contact from the respondent. As of, these photos were taken on October 7th of this year, showing that the property looks identical to what it did on the 21st of April, other than the car being shielded by a tarp. I would like to submit as evidence to the board an affidavit of non-compliance stating that the property as of May 23rd has not been brought into compliance under the order of the board, which was dated April 21st, 2016. That will become part of the final record. It is my recommendation to you, the board members, today that the board determine that the property at 352 Hope Road is in non-compliance of your order, which was dated April 21st, 2016. I also recommend that the board order a fine of $250 a day placed on the property for each day that the property remains in non-compliance. And that concludes my testimony.
And when you say remains, that would be $250 a day from our order date of 4/21/16?
23.
I would make a recommendation in all fairness to the property owner, and if the board can decide what they wish, perhaps starting that from today's date on the second hearing would start the fine
You'd
date.
be satisfied with that?
If the board is satisfied with that. The board's order said that the property had to be brought into compliance as of May 23rd, 2016, and it was not. Progress was completed between the 11th of May until May 23rd, but nothing since May 23rd.
Okay.
Tom, was he saying that from May 23rd forward, he's wanting the $250?
No, he's saying from today's date forward. Anybody else have questions,
There's a dilemma
comments? Yeah.
about trailers of that nature being on the roadways if the homeowner or the owner was able to move it, being in violation of a traffic law, a road law. Is that still a current situation?
Under state transportation law, trailers are considered vehicles in that sense. We don't deal with that in our department. If they are on the right-of-way of a roadway, that is not our department. That would fall on a sheriff's department or Florida Department of Transportation troopers to handle those. This particular property, although it may look like it is close to the right-of-way, it actually is on the parcel at 352 Hope Road. So,
my recollection was that the value of this property was about $5,000 or $6,000 according to the tax records.
I did not look at the tax records. I'm unaware of what the value of the property is.
One of the things that concerned us was that the fine may get up above the value of the property, and they just say, well, you take the property over county, and then we end up having to clean it up because we end up owning it.
And transferring the title and everything else.
Right, and that's a valid argument.
Which may cost more than the fine or that we'd ever receive, which more than likely will be zero.
Well, it doesn't sound like we've got much of an avenue.
Other than
Try and sell it when the fines, you've got a lien against it for more than the property value.
That's what I'm saying, is somebody's got to do something.
Yeah, nobody's going to do anything but the county.
So if the county has to take it over and sell it to,
it's better than having to put up with it for X number of years.
Well, and you set a bad example. If the county doesn't take action, then anybody with an
Yeah.
old trailer is just going to let it sit there.
Okay.
And I have my opinion on this. This may not be the forum to
No, go ahead.
discuss that opinion. This county needs to take action against things like this. That is my opinion. Not only is this unsightly, this is a safety hazard. Being left in a dilapidated condition, any structure in this county, it becomes a hazard, which I feel could potentially bring liability against the county somewhere down the road.
I can tell you, I do this for a living. We take them apart, demolish them. They're all filled with wasps or bees. I mean, it really can be a dangerous situation.
Not to mention bears.
Truly it is.
Yeah.
We were looking at having some discussions of the county, hopefully in the future moving forward to abating. And I understand your argument with the county being on the hook sometimes. I think there's avenues out there that the county can explore that will allow us to abate and perhaps not be out money on certain properties.
well, now, wait a minute, what would we, in order to do that, we'd have to lien it, foreclose the lien, sell it at a judicial sale, and then the county would take title and could put it on the unclaimed lands list for,
That's a better question for the attorneys,
That
I
would be-
think.
To answer that question, yes, and the county has done this, at least with one property that I know of since Mark and I have been with the county.
do we need to set a cap on the amount of lien that can be placed on the property?
No, that's not necessary.
Well,
If the county gets it, the lien goes away.
Right, it's
Yeah.
extinguished.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
the buyer didn't have to,
Correct.
all right, I move we accept it.
I'm concerned about the time frame. What's the time frame to get through all this legal language over with that still being out there? Because we can't touch it till,
Until it's yours.
You want, yeah, it's, I can answer it, but I'd rather you.
I could just give you an example from the one code foreclosure that Mark and I handled. From the time that we filed the action till we actually had a final hearing, it was probably about 8 months.
And that in my experience is short time.
Yeah.
It-
I was
it
gonna
could
say
take
a year to
longer.
a year and a half, yeah, especially if there's a fine when you count.
And you last talked to this owner in June?
It was on May 11th. He
May 11th.
contacted our office probably very shortly after he received the order from the board. He reached out to us via telephone. spoke
And did he
with our-
appear cooperative at all?
Our officer had discussions with him about how to bring the property into compliance.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, the reinspection showed that he went out and covered the inoperable vehicle and had removed some items out of that trailer. But to this day, the trailer remains in a dilapidated state. Some of the junk and debris on the property has been rearranged to be less of a junk and debris pile. which is a whole nother discussion
Yeah.
at some point.
Well, I move that we accept his recommendation.
$250 a day starting today?
I have a question. How long
Yes,
is
sir.
it, how long is this gonna go on before the county forecloses on the lien?
8 months.
8 months.
8 months, the answer to that?
That's a guess.
Mr. Sullivan, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but we are required to wait a certain amount of time before we're allowed to foreclose the lien. And I want to say it's either 4 or 6 months. So we would have to wait at least that long before we could start the proceedings to foreclose the lien.
And all during this time, he'll be running up this daily fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I sometimes get the feeling $100 a day fine would be the same thing as $250. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
$1 a day would probably be enough.
Well, it's an interesting thing. If you make the fine low enough,
You can maybe pay it and get it.
yeah, he might be able to do it. But if you make the fine $250 a day, it goes up so quickly that he couldn't sell it. But if you make the fine low enough, then the property may have some value. A guy could buy it for $5,000, remove the junk and debris, and solve the problem.
Is there any
He's had
mechanism for a
6
lien
months to do
release
that.
from the county?
Yeah, but he's been looking at $250 a day threat.
Is there any mechanism for a lien release by the county?
Yes, so if he satisfies the lien, Mark's,
Well, if he came into compliance, could we forgive the lien?
yes, he would just have to petition this board to satisfy the lien or
We've
reduce
done
it.
that too.
It would
Yes.
work like a redemption.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a mechanism to forgive the lien if he
Oh,
comes
so
into
it doesn't
compliance.
make any difference, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, then why not go with their recommendation?
I make that motion.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion?
Would you reread the motion? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, would you restate it?
The motion is that we accept the recommendation of the code enforcement officer that we implement a fine of $250 a day,
Beginning,
today, tomorrow.
and your second still good?
Yes.
All right. Then any further discussion?
Yes, I hold true to the final $100 a day should be sufficient and might not create a hassle to get somebody who's down in luck to think that there's no hope. Because I think the $250 a day retroactive to May 23rd may have at a certain point have said, what the heck?
Well, it's not retroactive on my motion,
No,
it's
but
prospective.
that's what he's been dealing with.
I'll amend my motion to $100 a day.
I agree. I think it's the best point this way.
You seconded the motion. Would you
We're
go?
not into the landscape, our real estate business.
No, but Jack, would
Work
you,
it.
would you accept 100 a day?
Yeah,
I'll go along with it.
All right,
I
then.
remember the other pictures we had and more of the details up front. This guy ain't coming back, I can tell you that right now.
No.
And the sooner we get to the value of the property, I think better, but I'll go with the wishes of the board.
All right, so the motion is now $100 a day.
And you've had you've amended it and you've accepted the amendment as a
Yes,
second.
I'll
Okay.
go
Okay.
in.
We're getting to vote.
These aren't the only pictures they've got.
Yeah.
Right.
this is what they've given
And that
us.
trailer's not going anywhere, I can tell you that right now.
Well, the county, does he plan to do away with the trailer, or what's his plans for it? Do you have any idea?
I don't know what the property owner's plans are. What we told him was that the condition of the trailer was such that it needed to be demolished and removed from the property.
Well,
in the state that
landfill
it
used to
was in.
take those. I don't know if they at no charge. I don't know if they still will or not.
And they may.
They won't?
No, I don't think so.
Who will?
When we do it, we crush them and sell a frame for scrap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Do
pay.
you want it?
It's awful nice of you. $500 a load, it's yours.
That sounds like a conflict.
I don't think I want to hear the rest of this conversation.
All right, so we got a motion on the table.
Okay, so we do have a motion and we're going to vote on it. And the motion is that
A little more discussion.
it's, okay.
Did you give us an estimate of the value of the property?
I did not. No, sir.
You have any idea of the value of the property?
I do not know the value of the
I
property.
remember, do you remember at the initial hearing, it was
6 or
very low.
7,000. We were
Yeah,
dividing by the fine to see
Right.
how long it would take.
He's looking it up right now.
$5,900.
yeah, wasn't a whole lot of money.
$100 will do it.
So,
That's 59 days.
in 59 days, we exceed the value of the property.
Yeah. So, like you said, 100, 250, it really.
And at that point, am I correct that the lien can then take place?
Yes, sir. Once it reaches that point, it can, and then Sydney
Which
or.
means if
or
we
whoever-
raise it to $200 a day, the lien can go in 30 days?
No.
No, you still have a minimum number of days.
Well, we can do the lane right now.
What's the
We wanna
minimum,
lean it to-
what's the minimum number of days?
I think it's 180 days before we can actually place a lien. I may be incorrect on that because I didn't look
From
at
the
that.
beginning or from today?
No, it'd be from the date that the lien was, tomorrow,
The date the lien accrues.
yeah.
From the beginning date of the lien, not
Which will
from
be
when
to-
the date equals the.
Which should be
yeah.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow for 180 days.
He still owes us $450,
Yeah.
and he hadn't paid us that.
And he's gonna
We
get
put
an
a lien on
opportunity to
it.
pay another 450 for tonight.
Or for, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna get paid, so.
That's what I mean, why run it up so astronomically amount.
Okay, so is the discussion over? Can we vote?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor signify
Aye.
by saying aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, then it passes. Do we need to make a motion for the 450?
I move that we assess a fee for tonight's meeting, a $450 administrative fee, adding to it. No?
Wait, is there a second for the
Well, we
motion?
talked about that the last.
Wait, she's got a motion on
A
this.
second.
Is
You
there a
have
second?
first,
All right,
before you have
now
discussion.
we'll go ahead with the discussion.
Well, there was I agree with the concept of charging for the, but there was like a $45 or $50 cost for these folks to go through the paperwork of assessing the $450 extra fee. And so,
That's interesting.
since he hadn't paid the one from before, the likelihood,
I don't
Of an
see him
addition.
paying anything, and what's gonna happen is whatever is amassed is gonna be a fee that's gonna be tacked on to the property to try and sell it.
but for this individual additional incremental fee, there'd be incremental cost to the agency.
How do y'all feel about $50?
No,
I'm not
it's
gonna give
the
it away
point.
because we have to pay the whole
The
thing.
cost is $50, whether it's 5,000
Right.
or 50, but the income is gonna be zero either way. So we're gonna incur a cost and not
This-
have any benefit.
No, this isn't gonna work. There's an analogy, okay? Guy comes up to me and says, I know your brother-in-law, you need to give me a deal, so I give him this price. Somebody else comes up to me and says, what happens is I get caught giving the wrong guy the price. And if you start wheeling and dealing
Yeah.
on the $450,
We s-
it's gonna come back
We
and
had a
bite
fee
you.
set up once before, a structured fee, and they came up with the numbers to what it costs for them on an average to present a program. Some of them are more, some of them are less, but the average fee was $450, and I agree, it needs to stay, that's the cost of it, of
Yeah.
doing business.
It's
So-
just whether it's wise to do it or not, and I say, we got to keep $50 in our pockets or throw $50 away. There's no value to this situation to charge them an extra $450.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, we'll vote on the motion, and the motion is that we levy a charge of $450 for the administrative cost of tonight's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Okay, so it passes 1, 2, 3. What, do I get to vote?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 1 against.
6-1.
Okay. Then I believe we're going to be ready for the second case, number 14532, iMark Properties LLC in Tallahassee, and it's a violation of 110109, an alleged violation of 110109, post-permit changes, and 110403 regarding a sign permit.
Let me ask our attorney a question. This came before the planning commission twice, and I have made a decision on it twice before at the planning commission level. Do I need to recuse myself?
Probably so.
I'll
would
recuse
say.
myself.
I would.
I need the form if you don't mind.
I do not have one with me. Sydney, do you? She's got one.
I go there a lot to eat. Do I need to recuse myself?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
Somebody got a vote.
I hear it's real good, though.
Says he eats there.
Hello.
We're gonna get Sunday brunch.
That's what I've heard.
My daughter used to work there, but I'm not recusing myself. I never went there.
Okay, Anna, I think we're ready to go then.
All right, good evening. I'm Officer Anna Reichert. I'm presenting case 2014-532. I've submitted a copy of the final report for the record. Keep in mind this case spans a period of over 2 years, or right at 2 years, I should say. And on October 2nd of 2014, a complaint was received by the Walton County Code Enforcement concerning an unpermitted sign located in the front of a business located on Highway 30A. After a site investigation, it was determined that the parcel is in violation of Ordinance 97-28 of the Walton County Land Development Code, Section 11.01.09 regarding post-permit changes, and 11.04.03 regarding sign permits. A complaint was received by code enforcement on October 2nd, 2014 regarding an unpermitted sign located on the front of the business on Highway 30A. A site investigation by Officer Jason Catalano revealed a sign structure with new lettering for a restaurant. Property appraiser's website reveals the property is listed as parcel number 02-3S-20-34-160-000-0620, and the property owner's name is listed as iMark Properties LLC, with an agent of Martin Sipple, Esquire, at 123 South Calhoun Street, Tallahassee, Florida. On October 7th, 2014, Officer Jason Catalano spoke with Hilton White. He's the contractor for this property, Officer Catalano advised him of the permit requirements. Then in December 17th, 2014, Officer Catalano met with the planning department and determined the two violations existed on the property: the unpermitted sign and post-permit changes, which was an expansion of use from the approved bed and breakfast to a restaurant. December 22nd, 2014, a notice of violation was sent certified mail by Officer Catalano to the property owner, iMark Properties LLC, with a compliance date of January 30th, 2015. January 28th, 2015, Officer Catalano granted an extension until March 6th, 2015 to submit an application for development order to change the sign advertising for a cafe bar back to the original approved sign and cease the operation or the use of the property for a restaurant. March 9th of 2015, reinspection by Officer Catalano shows the sign has been corrected, but an application for the DO had not been submitted. June 16th, 2015, reinspection by Officer Catalano shows a temporary sign was placed out advertising the restaurant and bar, and the development order application had not been submitted. June 30th, 2015, a notice of code board hearing was sent certified mail to the property owner, iMark Properties LLC, for the July 16th, 2015 scheduled board meeting. July 13th, 2015, Officer Catalano granted a 2-week extension pending the submittal of documents for the development order. July 21st, 2015, Navaline shows an application for a major development was submitted. February 25th, 2016, the case was reassigned to Officer Stephanie Manning with no further action until May 15th, 2016. Officer Anna Reichert, was assigned to this case. I emailed an inquiry to Vivian Schammel, planner, who replied that the project is currently going through the development order process and that the case should remain open until pending that outcome. August 11th, 2016, the Planning Commission agenda shows a request to deny this project. August 31st, 2016, the Technical Review Committee recommended denial of this project. September 20th, 2016, the BCC denied the approval of this project. September 22nd, 2016, a reinspection of the property revealed an unapproved sign and evidence of restaurant activity. Officer Anna Reichert, sent a notice of violation, certified mail, to the owner iMark Properties, LLC, with a compliance period of 30 days within receipt of this notice. October 4th, 2016, a reinspection revealed the property remains in violation, and a notice of hearing was sent, certified mail, to the property owners of iMark Properties, LLC, with the hearing date of October 20th, 2016. October 7th, 2016, I hand-delivered a courtesy copy of the notice of hearing to the manager on the property, who signed the affidavit of service as proof of delivery. I also posted a copy of the notice of hearing at the front of the South Walton Annex Courthouse here in Santa Rosa Beach. As of today, the property still remains in violation. Based on my findings, I recommend the board find the property in non-compliance as of the original January 30th, 2015 compliance date. I also recommend the board order a fine of $250 per day for each day the property has remained in non-compliance. And that's all.
What was the date that the BCC denied the permit? September 1?
September 20th, 2016.
About 4 weeks ago.
And the first discussion of...
Okay.
It's okay. The first discussion of delays while they tried to get a DO, what date was that? Jason gave him some time to get the DO, and then it skipped like a year, it seemed like.
Because of the process of the development order. And
right.
I don't know all the intricacies. I just know she did tell me that it was in the process and that the case was to remain open pending.
It just seems as if he was given the opportunity to apply for a DO and he did that time period should be eliminated, not held against him.
Well, I don't think, I was gonna ask, what, on your recommendation, when did you?
She said
original
1/30/15.
Yes, because the original date that they should have submitted the application for the DO was January 2015, and nothing was submitted until...
That's the date, yeah. Until...
July 21st, 2015.
So it took him from January 30th until July 22nd, approximately 6 months, to begin the process of applying for the DO. And then it took him from 7/22/15 until 9/20/16 to get denied, to go through the show
Yes.
and get denied.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you were applying for the DO, what all is in question? Do they have to submit plans, et cetera, to have them rule on it?
That's
Because
probably
that
a
can
question
take
for a planner because I really don't...
Mac could answer that question.
Yes.
Oh, hey, Mac, you haven't been sworn in, have you?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Code Board members. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department. We have been over backwards to try to help this applicant get a development order. One of the things we discovered during the development order process was that they were conducting special events, weddings, in addition to the bed and breakfast activity and the expansion of the restaurant activity. This is neighborhood infill. It automatically requires a major development order application. That's one reason it took so long. But the difficulty in getting a compatibility analysis that was acceptable to the county that addressed all of those things was the primary reason this project did not get approved. We reviewed the compatibility analysis multiple times, gave them multiple opportunities to correct that, and finally the owner just decided that he wasn't going to do it anymore. We went and we did not get a resubmittal for the Planning Commission that was scheduled. They issued a recommendation to deny. Because that is only a recommending body, it automatically continues to the Board of County Commissioners, where the Planning Commission recommended denial based on the Planning Commission's denial and the failure of the applicant to resubmit the appropriate documents that would allow us to review it and possibly approve it. But the applicant just quit.
Quit in his application for some kind of change to the building?
He decided he wasn't going to spend any more money on the application.
But did he want to change something in the building or the restaurant?
They'd already done it. They'd already made all the restaurant improvements. They just hadn't added the appropriate parking to support the restaurant. So there were other physical improvements that they needed to make. And during this process, for those of y'all that drive up and down 30A, we've had a tremendous parking problem on the side of 30A. a safety problem with people parking on the bike path right in front of this restaurant. I mean, in years past, it was a sporadic thing because they were having weddings there. There'd be a problem, and then all of a sudden it'd be gone. But that activity continued, and it's my understanding they've actually taken deposits for weddings into next year, and possibly into 2018. But from what I understand, there's a father and son involved in the operation. The dad decided he wasn't going to put any more money in. The unfortunate thing is none of the employees appeared to be apprised of anything other than, yeah, we're getting a development order and keep washing the dishes and cooking the food. And essentially, it appears that the applicant decided, well, let me just stretch this out past Labor Day. We'll get past the big season, and then we'll sell the property.
Do you know that? Is the property for sale? Do you, Dave, know that?
I haven't seen it for sale.
Yeah.
Is it?
No.
I've heard it is for sale.
It is for sale, you think?
I mean, if it is, it just.
And that is the indication we got from the applicant's agent, Jenkinson, Scott Jenkins.
The engineer?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when they were just a bed and breakfast, they were fine. Is that correct?
They were fine. They have a development order for bed and breakfast.
And then they expanded the restaurant. I remember when they put the temporary sign out there advertising. It was prior to them actually opening up the restaurant expansion. But I remember them doing that. So that was
chalkboard.
That was
they had
outside
done that. They had actually modified their main ID sign and put, I think, cafe on there. I don't remember exactly what it said, but they changed it from bed and breakfast to a restaurant.
To advertising.
In addition to a restaurant. Right. Now, I think the restaurant was also supporting their special event activities, the weddings, the receptions, and those kinds of things.
All right, so that was the first violation when they expanded the use of the restaurant, or they expanded the restaurant operation.
Well, technically, our first notice of it was when one of us drove by and saw the sign. In the scenic corridor, we're supposed to be proactive. Other than the increase in activity that was obvious to most of the neighborhood, and certainly any county staff that drove down 30A, further supported that there had been a change. They'd gotten an interior remodel permit, not to do a restaurant, but just to enhance the bed and breakfast, and it actually was for a restaurant.
Okay. Then where I lost you, I got disconnected a little bit on the compatibility analysis when you said that they made at least one round of changes on it and then came back and it was reviewed and then they needed to make more changes and then he just let it go. So how would just changes to the compatibility analysis?
The compatibility analysis wasn't supporting the use at the scale that it was being applied for.
But that sounds to me like what's another analogy? It's probably a political one where you're just changing it to fit the needs of, they were going to change the compatibility analysis so
they were going to do a more detailed analysis that also addressed the special event activities that they were having there. Okay. Because during this process, the neighbors to the east thought all those weddings were permitted. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until they came to one of the hearings, as we were going through the development order process, that they found out that all this stuff that they were sort of putting up with, because they thought it had already been permitted by the county, was not permitted. And then we got a much larger participation from the neighborhood, as we usually do.
Are you trying to tell me we have another Purple Wedding House event?
No, it's different.
Well, we were having all these people who, beforehand, in an area that wasn't allowed to have all those weddings.
Well, in this particular case, it actually could be permitted if they could get through the process and meet the requirements of the Land Development Code. The land use category is neighborhood infill, which would allow that kind of use.
Well, it sounds to me like bottom line, regardless of what they're missing or didn't do or where they cut the process off, why they don't have the DO that they need.
The reason they don't have a DO, the biggest reason is they failed to resubmit and just stop the process. The engineer continued to come to the meetings and inform him that the client has decided not to resubmit.
And what we're
We can't
doing-
make somebody get a development order.
Right.
And this action here is about the sign and something else.
Post-permit changes for the development order that allowed the bed and breakfast. The post-permit changes were the expansion into into a full-blown restaurant and the outdoor events.
So, would they be able to get the parking? Because I know that parking there is not the, parking in that whole area from Ed Walling Park on up.
I think
pretty atrocious.
based on the plan that was submitted, there was going to be sufficient parking.
There was.
It's a big lot. They got plenty of.
Yeah, but
Except when
I
they.
can tell you right now, I've had to park across the street. I haven't parked on the bike path yet, but it's pretty bad in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a big
On Sundays.
wetland along the western boundary of that lot that gets larger as you go south. So that was a constraint also because there's a 25-foot secondary wetland protection zone that they had to comply with.
Mr. Chairman, maybe a technicality.
I have to ask one question. On September 22nd in your notes, it said that you sent a certified letter with 30 days, that there be compliance within 30 days of receipt of notice. Today, that was September 22nd. Today is October 20th. So you haven't met your 30 days of compliance before we've had a hearing.
I had a question about that, 'cause this was afterwards.
I can answer that if that's all right.
Sure.
Our standard procedure is to allow violators a 30-day period. When that letter went out, we had not yet had a determination from the BCC whether their application was going to be denied. So that letter had already gone out with a 30-day as a standard time period. In my opinion, once the BCC denied them and we did a reinspect and they continue operating outside of their use, they were still in violation. So in my opinion, the 30-day period would not prejudice the situation.
Well, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, and as such, we have to go by fair notice, and it would seem to me that erring on the side of caution, I would say that this hearing may be premature because it's not, the 30 days is not expired. They have an expectation of 30 days by your certified letter, and even though they may have been notified of a hearing, the fact that they're not here may indicate that they were relying upon the September 22nd letter. I just bring it up as a technicality, and since the courts love technicalities, I would hate to see a ruling that's done by this committee or this commission have to be overturned because of that technicality if they decided to push the matter.
And I absolutely understand your viewpoint on that. We were aware of that. My argument would be that the property itself has been operating in violation for over 2 years at this point. The 30-day could be a courtesy because as code enforcement, we grant extensions all the time. So time frames, and I understand under notice where you're looking at the 30 days. However, because it's been operating for 2 years outside of its use, which puts it in violation, the county's worked with them to come into compliance once they were denied and continue to operate outside that compliance.
But I have a hard time with that concept of if there's something that we put in writing giving them, stating that we're giving you until date certain to come into compliance, and then we come back in and I don't remember the date that you said you recommended the fine start accruing from, it seems like it is now or it's been in the past, correct? I certainly don't see starting any kind of fine before that date certain.
Correct.
I just have a problem if it's in writing, they have it in their possession, they're relying on something right there on paper with a signature on it, that we shouldn't be taking action on it until that date's passed.
How long have they had notice of this meeting tonight, that they were on the agenda, that they knew they had a problem, they had to come here to this outfit to fix?
We sent out under proper notice for time frame on October 4th.
Okay.
So
And I understand
And they're not
your
here.
point too. I mean, and what Max had bent over backwards, and I agree with all that, but I don't think we should ever send that letter if we weren't gonna give them till the date on the letter to do something, at least allow that.
And I completely understand the argument, and my opinion doesn't matter. It's how the board feels about it. So it's up to the board. And please keep in mind that when our officers give recommendations to you folks, they're only recommendations. You are the deciding board. You can choose to take those recommendations or modify them however you see fit. So I understand the error. We saw that. It's something that's unfortunate because sometimes we have to wait for other entities to make a ruling. And when we've had a case open for 2 years and we're trying to proceed under a violation that's been going on for 2 years in this county, sometimes those things happen. So
let's make a motion and just table it until next.
Yeah, that's, much as I hate to do that, because it seems from the evidence that they're clearly, but if in fact you gave them 30 days and they don't have 30 days, I mean, what's he gonna do tomorrow? Take down all the signs and say the place is closed? Most unlikely. On the other hand, if you legally gave him that time, we really do have to delay. Because if we don't, he'll pick this to hang his hat on.
Could we do this? I don't know how to phrase it into a motion right now, Renee, but tell me, but if the date on the letter is 30 days from September 22nd, right? So what's that, October 22nd?
Actually, what she has written here is 30 days from receipt of notice, so it would have been when they signed for the certified.
So, okay, say that's October 25th. So that's what?
5 days from now, yeah.
So 5 days from now, can we go back to them and say, hey, look, you know, the board, since we sent you this letter, is tabling the issue till next meeting, but if you're still found in violation, then you know, we're not.
We really shouldn't take any
Well,
action
from that day.
The question remains whether or not the notice of hearing was properly sent to begin with, since it had you had a 30-day extension that was a 30-day compliance extension granted, and the notice for hearing was sent, with the hearing being held prior to that expiration of that 30 days. I think that gives them a foothold or a toehold to come back. And so instead of having it finalized next month, we're going into 2017 hearing this thing again. So my recommendation is let's err on the side of caution, delay until next month, and sort of, because once the 25th or 26th or whenever the date is, send them out the next notice. We do have a hearing next month anyway. Mm-hmm. We're going to be scheduled here. I would prefer to see it that way.
So we can do it next month? All right.
I would strongly recommend, and especially in a case like this where it's been ongoing for a long time, they have fought it. If they see a toehold, they're going to come back and fight it. I'd hate to give them a reason to appeal you or to drag this thing out even further.
Keep in mind that we had one case that went out 6 months because of a typographical error.
So.
But while we're here and discussing things, we had a problem with the sign that's been going on 1.5 years, and we delayed taking any action on the sign because the planning commission was doing something over here. But we didn't have to wait. I mean, we didn't have to wait about the sign, did we? We just decided that would be a good thing at the time. Is that basically
I didn't get the case until May this year, so I really couldn't.
Could we do that? Could we proceed? If the letter that you wrote said that the DO was denied by the BCC, right? Therefore, you can't come into compliance. Okay, but the sign itself, doesn't affect the sign, does it?
It does. It says, well, I haven't seen the letter, but it says reinspection of property revealed unapproved sign and evidence of restaurant activity. She sent a notice of violation, certified mail. So I assume it was a violation of the sign and the violation of the restaurant activity.
The sign that you see on the screen is the sign that is there today, which
I realize
is
that,
unpermitted still.
Yeah, I got that, but I was just wondering if we couldn't proceed tonight on the issue of the sign.
If it concerned both issues, I would say err on the side of caution. And I may be being too cautious, but I would again.
That's why we have a lawyer on the board.
Well, I would recommend caution in these types of cases where you had someone who is who has fought it and who may rear back up to fight it again
Yeah.
if given an opportunity.
So we need to put them on the agenda for next time, and then.
You had the right idea, table it until the next meeting.
Yeah.
Could the
And
board-
send them
could the
another
board-
notice and mention the $450 and the $250 maximum
You
per
can't
day.
mention the 450, we have to vote on.
Could the board extend them a period of time, give them a 30-day time period to come into compliance? In other words, the violation is that they're maintaining operations today outside of the use. If you extend them a 30-day, basically what they need to do is, because they got denied through the BCC, and I may be wrong here, they just need to stop the use and turn it back to a bed and breakfast.
We don't have
No,
to.
no, you don't
30
need to.
days. We just have to tell them to show up at the next meeting.
Yeah, that's all we're doing
Okay.
is showing up at the next
That's
meeting.
fine.
Yeah, 'cause we
Yeah.
got it.
It's the 17th, so we don't have 30 days.
Yeah, we do. It's 30 days
George,
from the,
well,
it's 30 days from the date that they wrote the letter, which was 9/20.
No, 30 days from the date of receipt.
Okay,
Receipt,
okay.
Certified receipt.
Right, so,
So our time, if we table it to the next meeting, it's
Yeah.
gonna be shorter than giving them 30
Yes.
days. So if you gave them 30 days tonight, which I wouldn't recommend,
No.
because again, this hearing may not have been noticed properly. If you set it aside and renotice it for the hearing for next month, that's a shorter time period than giving them 30 days from today.
okay, and we can do that.
Yes.
That's what I recommend, that that it be tabled until
Okay, do you,
next meeting.
Jack, do you want to
Properly
make that
noticed.
motion then?
Yeah, but I want to say, just really quick, what is wrong with that sign?
Oh, everything.
Oh, never mind.
It's the wrong,
Like to make
it's the wrong
motion that
size,
we
it got
move
done without a
forward.
sign permit, it's like, it
Well,
ain't
Yeah.
right.
they actually changed the sign without getting approval. That change of the sign has to be approved, no matter what it says.
Is it the same frame they had before and they just put different?
According to
verbiage
his
on it?
notes, again,
As I remember.
2 years ago,
You ought to know, Dave, the Highland House part was always there, wasn't it?
yeah.
Didn't it used to be
Yeah,
white
as
with
long as I
red though?
remember, I mean, that sign, that picture of that sign makes it look a lot worse than what I remember. Is it not, looks like it's about to fall down, is it?
I think it's just that vacancy thing in the bottom.
Maybe. I don't
That
know.
was, that looks like it has Christmas decoration.
I know
No, it
they've
has
changed,
plants on the
yeah.
sign.
Up on top.
Is the sign, is the square footage too big, or what's the,
Well, Mac, you can tell us what's wrong better than I can.
yeah, just,
Uh-oh.
I can't read, if I can't read it right now.
They did modify the sign. At one time, it said cafe, somewhere above where it says now open. It still says weddings and
Weddings and
events in
events,
there,
yeah.
and those are not permitted. The size of the sign is not the issue, it's what it says.
It's just
It advertises a use that is not permitted on that site.
weddings and events, wedding events.
But isn't the sign in its own right not compliant with the 30A sign, corridor design
Standard.
requirements?
I'd have to double check that. We were looking at what it said, because that sign has been there for
Yeah.
Oh, it might be grandfathered
a long, long time.
in? Okay.
And then all of a sudden it said something different. And that's what, along with the massive traffic problem on 30A, parking problem. When the sign changes, that's definite proof that the use has changed. When you start advertising something that you're not permitted for.
All right.
No.
I don't.
But if they just
there's any
repainted
question
it,
there.
that would have been fine.
If they would have just put it back to the way it was.
That's what I mean, repaint
Yes.
it.
That would have
Fades
fixed,
out, you
that would have
can't
fixed
read
the
it.
sign problem. That did not fix what they were doing though. But yes, that would have cured that portion.
So if they paint over weddings and events and then they go back to just the bed and breakfast use, they're in compliance.
Except for the restaurant, yeah. I move we table case 14-532 till our next meeting.
I second the motion.
Any discussion?
Right, does that mean that we need to have staff reissue
Reissue
a
hearing notice.
notice of hearing?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Then the motion carries. And we'll be back here next month.
Thank you very much.
Now, before we move to adjourn, may I make some comments about the meeting and the screens tonight?
You
If
may.
you don't mind?
may.
Thank you. I find that there's a screen that you need to love your pictures, but really, we need a timeline instead of
Oh, this is
sitting here
corrected.
going nuts trying to write down and listen to you and write
That
at the
was in
same
front of
time.
me.
I'd like to
I
have
go
that
to
up
you.
there.
Yes, ma'am, we can do that.
And I'd also like to have a proper evaluation, which we used to get those too.
Okay, certainly.
Okay.
Wait a minute, I'm
Thank you.
sorry, what did you
I'd like to
say? Problem?
have something from the tax collector's office or we used to get that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was very beneficial sometimes when we looked at it. So those two things, a timeline of what y'all was sitting up here reading to us.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay.
And I'd also like for you to put as a final thing in writing up there what you're suggesting
Sure.
as your deal.
Certainly. Would it work better to give you a hard copy of the timeline?
No, I don't mind
would
that, but
testify?
if
You'd
you've already
rather,
printed
you're
it,
okay
make
with
it
seeing it on the
screen.
screen? Okay,
But
certainly.
the deal is to keep us from having to write everything down that you're not giving us.
Yeah, look at all these are all just dates.
Yeah,
We,
dates.
Yeah.
we really want you to focus on what we're saying. That's
Right.
why we don't give you anything to
Right.
look at. No, I'm
Yeah.
just, yes.
But you can give us something we can view. And we
Absolutely.
don't have to sit here and go, what did he say again?
Yes, ma'am. We will
Yeah.
certainly do
Mr.
that.
Chairman,
for the next-
I have a
Yes.
point of order. I'm informed that our next meeting is scheduled for Thanksgiving evening.
Well, that might not
The
work.
15th?
Well, actually, we checked, November has actually 5 weeks.
It's the 17th, it's the week
It's
before.
17th, so we're good.
Well, I was just saying we were going to destroy this guy's business. So
Look at your, Thanksgiving is the fourth Thursday.
Yes, it's the
We
next
have
week.
five.
This is the third Thursday and it's the 17th.
Okay.
So we're good.
This November has 5 weeks. yes.
It's the week before Thanksgiving.
Right, we're good.
Okay, great. All right.
And I will share with y'all that I will not be here because I have surgery the day before.
Oh, dear.
We adjourn.
No, we
So you
didn't
can
have the
have fun
second,
without
though.
But thank you for your patience, board.
Yes.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Robert, you
I want to
moved to
excuse
adjourn?
absence.
Would you second that? We are adjourned.
These sheets here, can't take it with us.
It's so good to see you.
You too, buddy.
It's a long time.
How was the fleet?
I watched Trish on Facebook.
I have
Yeah, and I'm
I tell you what, I had
been
39
by your
pictures
store
sent to me
a couple times.
things people saw me on the
Check
TV.
out what's going on.
Every
Are you
He's
involved
got-
with that, or-
bloody day.
That's my son, I own the property, but I'm in the building.
It goes from